They say when a woman leaves you, it breaks you. Maybe that's true for some men, but not for me. The day she slid those divorce papers across the table, expecting tears or a desperate plea to stay, I smiled. Not a fake smile, not a forced one. A real, deep, liberating smile. My name is Ethan Walker. I'm 45, and this is the story of how my wife's betrayal didn't destroy me, it set me free. I first met Rachel Monroe on a warm spring afternoon at a friend's backyard barbecue in Asheville. She walked in with a pitcher of sangria, sunglasses perched on top of her chestnut hair, sun catching her skin just right. I still remember how everything else seemed to fade around her. She lit up the whole damn yard. "You've been staring for a while," she said with a smirk, catching me mid-bite into a burger. "Sorry," I stammered. "It's not every day you see someone who makes the sun look like a 40-watt bulb." She laughed, and that laugh stuck with me. It was soft, unguarded, real. 6 months later, I proposed to her at a cabin in the Smoky Mountains, under a sky so full of stars we didn't need a flashlight. A year later, we moved into our first house, just outside Charlotte, a 2-story colonial I had helped design myself. At first, Rachel was my rock. She celebrated every contract I landed with Walker & Co. Construction like it was the Super Bowl. When I was buried in blueprints and deadlines, she'd show up with takeout and that warm smile, always knowing when to speak and when just to sit beside me in silence. We tried to have kids. God knows we tried. But after a couple painful years and more doctor visits that I care to count, we had to accept it wasn't in the cards. Still, we had each other. I poured myself into work. She started a boutique design business from home. We were building a life, or so I thought. By our 10th anniversary, my company had grown to 40 employees, with projects stretching across 4 states. I bought Rachel a white Lexus and booked us 2 weeks in Maui. Life felt solid. But then, little by little, things changed. It started small. She stopped asking how my day was. She started going to bed early, scrolling through her phone like her life depended on it. Said she was tired, that her clients were keeping her busy. Then came the girls' nights out. More and more of them. New dresses I'd never seen her wear. Phone buzzing at weird hours. Her stepping into the hallway to answer with a hushed voice. I asked her once if everything was okay. She just said she was exhausted. I wanted to believe her. Maybe I needed to. For our 15th anniversary, I planned a surprise dinner at Magnolia and Vine, the same restaurant where we had our engagement celebration. Candlelight, jazz, the works. I got there early, ordered a bottle of her favorite wine. I waited. She never came. At 9:34 p.m., I got a text. "Hey, I'm with Lauren. Her breakup was bad. She really needed me." I sat at that table for another hour, alone, watching couples laugh and toast and hold hands while my steak went cold. She walked in past midnight that night, hair a little too styled, smelling like someone else's cologne. "How's Lauren?" I asked from the dark of our living room. She gasped. "Ethan, you scared me. Why are you just sitting there?" "I was waiting for my wife. Tonight was our anniversary, remember?" She froze. "Oh my God, I forgot. I completely forgot." Her face didn't show guilt, just irritation, like I had caught her in the middle of something inconvenient. That should have been the moment I ended things. But I still loved her. Or maybe I just loved the memory of who she used to be. So I let it go. Again. But a few weeks later, I found the receipt. A hotel bill for the Riverbend Lodge, about 30 minutes outside town. Date stamped for the same night she'd told me she was at her sister's in Raleigh. I stared at that slip of paper, my stomach a knot of ice and acid. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. Because I've learned something from 2 decades running construction projects. Don't swing the hammer until you've measured every nail. I folded the receipt, slid it into my wallet, and said nothing. That weekend, I left before dawn and headed for my fishing cabin out by Crystal Pines Lake. I'd built it myself back in my 20s. It's where I always go to think. No phone, no noise, just me, the water, and my old man's voice in my head. Control your emotions, son, or they'll end up controlling your whole damn life. By Sunday night, my plan was crystal clear. No screaming, no accusations, no drama. I wouldn't just survive this, I'd outmaneuver it. First thing Monday, I met with my lawyer, Greg Adams. The guy's been with me since day one. I need a quiet asset review, I told him. Greg looked up, concerned. Ethan, is something wrong? Let's just say I'm being proactive. That evening, Rachel was already home when I walked in. She was sitting at the kitchen island, twisting her wedding band with shaky fingers. "We need to talk," she said. I opened a beer. Then talk. "I want a divorce." I took a sip, set the bottle down, met her eyes, and smiled. "Okay." She blinked. "Okay? That's all you have to say? What else were you expecting? Begging? Tears? If you want out, the door's right there." Rachel just stared at me, like the script she rehearsed all day had suddenly vanished. "You're not even gonna ask why?" I leaned back against the counter, sipping my beer again. "Not really, but I'm guessing his name is Jason. Drives a black Audi. I've seen it idling outside the house a few too many times. And I'm sure the staff at Riverbend Lodge know you both by name now." Her mouth parted in shock. Color drained from her face. "You knew?" I knew enough. I walked past her, calm, deliberate, as if I'd just finished a meeting and was heading back to my home office. "My attorney will be in touch. Let's keep it civil." She followed, her voice now tinged with panic. "Wait, what about the house, the joint accounts?" I turned at the door. "You asked for a divorce, Rachel. You'll get it. Just don't assume you'll be taking half of what I built with you." And there it was, that stunned silence. Not pain, not regret, just disbelief. She never expected me to be ready. The next morning, she left early for work. I waited 20 minutes, then went upstairs. I wasn't looking for more pain. I was looking for clarity and evidence. Sure enough, I found the second phone, poorly hidden in her nightstand under a stack of scarves. No passcode. Amateur. Messages flooded the screen. Texts with Jason, voice memos, videos, travel receipts. 11 months they'd been together. Flights, hotels, even plans for when the divorce is finalized. What hit the hardest weren't the I love yous or weekend trips. It was a single message that read, "Ethan has no idea about the business accounts. Once I file, I can claim half." That's when my sympathy died. I photographed every single thing, then returned the phone exactly as I found it. Her home office was next. She had a shredder bin beside the desk, and inside, like a damn thriller movie, were torn pieces of bank statements. It took me hours, piecing it together like a puzzle, but eventually I saw it. Money transfers. Thousands to an account I'd never seen. I didn't scream, didn't confront. I got to work. I called my business partner, Marcus Green. "Remember that buyout clause we put in our partnership agreement 5 years ago?" "Yeah," he replied, cautious. "Why?" "I'm activating it. Today." "Everything all right?" "It will be." By noon, I had moved every personal asset into new, secure accounts. My shares in Walker & Co. were now legally insulated. Rachel could try coming for my business, but she'd run face first into a fortress. That night, she came home just after 7. I was reviewing paperwork at the kitchen table. She walked in fast, cheeks red, eyes fiery. "What the hell did you do?" She was waving her phone. "Jason says the house is only in your name. That can't be right." "Check the refinancing paperwork you signed last year," I said calmly. "You know, the one you didn't read because you were in a hurry to meet your clients for drinks." She hesitated, confused. "You tricked me." "No, I protected myself." She slammed her purse on the table. "This isn't fair. I'm entitled to half." I stood up slowly, towering over her. Not in anger, just presence. "Half of what, Rachel? Half of the business I built while you were planning your little escape? Half of the house I paid for while you were making weekend getaways with another man?" She backed away a step. I saw it in her eyes. Not fear of me, but fear of consequences. "You married a man you thought would be too busy to notice. You underestimated me." She said nothing, just turned and left the room, her footsteps echoing down the hallway. Later, I heard her whispering to Jason on the phone. Her voice trembled. Their golden plan had turned to dust. 3 days later, the divorce papers came through Rachel's attorney, Amanda Pierce, a well-dressed woman with a polite smile and sharp eyes. The letter was cordial, the demands excessive. Half the house, half the business, alimony, plus her car. I brought Greg with me to Amanda's office, along with a thick manila folder. She launched into her polished pitch. "Mrs. Walker is seeking an equitable division of marital assets, including—" I slid the folder across the table. "You'll want to see these before we continue." Amanda opened it. Her brows knit together as she flipped through. Text messages, hotel bookings, screenshots of asset transfers. Her voice faltered. "I'll need to discuss this with my client." Greg leaned forward. "While you do that, we should probably pull up the prenup." Amanda looked stunned. "There's no prenup in our files." "Filed with the county," Greg said, 15 years ago. I added, "Looks like your client hasn't been entirely honest with you." When Amanda returned, her tone had shifted entirely. "My client is open to discussing a more conservative settlement." "Let make it simple," I said. "Rachel walks away with her car, her clothes, and a one-time payment of $50,000. Amanda opened her mouth to protest, but Greg cut her off. "That's more than generous. The alternative is a public trial. And this," he tapped the folder, "will be AA." As we stood to leave, Amanda was already dialing Rachel. I didn't have to hear the conversation to know how it ended. Rachel agreed, but insisted on meeting for closure. Against Greg's advice, I said yes. 15 years. I figured I could give her 15 more minutes. I chose Colson's Steakhouse, where we'd celebrated our 10th anniversary. She showed up 20 minutes late, dressed like she was walking a red carpet. Hair freshly done, designer shoes, red lipstick she hadn't worn in years. She didn't come alone. Jason was right behind her. "Bold move," I said, gesturing toward the seat opposite me as they sat down across the booth. "This is Jason," Rachel introduced, trying to sound composed. I met his eyes. He looked away first. Weak handshake type, already crumbling. "So," I said, folding my napkin, "you wanted to talk, Rachel. Let's talk." She squared her shoulders, trying to reclaim control. "I just wanted to explain how things happened the way they did." I interrupted. "You weren't happy. I worked too much. Jason gets you. You finally feel seen. Did I miss anything?" Jason leaned forward, attempting confidence. "Look, man, no one planned for this. Sometimes people just connect, you know?" I turned to him slowly. "Did I ask you anything?" He blinked, glanced at Rachel for backup. She jumped in, flustered. "Ethan, please, I didn't come here to fight. I just needed you to know it wasn't all bad between us." I took a long, deliberate sip of bourbon. "Is that what you need to tell yourself to sleep at night?" "No," she said, a bit too quickly. "This is for both of us. Closure." I nodded. "No, Rachel, you didn't come for closure. You came hoping I'd be angry, that I'd scream and curse and throw a scene. Because if I did, you could walk out of here feeling justified." She flushed. I could see the gears turning in her head, the carefully rehearsed lines unraveling. "That's not true." "It is. But here's the part you really won't like. I'm not angry. Not anymore. In fact," I leaned back and smiled. "I'm grateful." Jason snorted. "Grateful? Your wife left you. That's rich." No, I said, eyes locked on Rachel. Grateful she showed me exactly who she is before I wasted another decade. You did me a favor. Her jaw tensed. We were together 15 years. You can't just erase that. I'm not erasing anything, I replied. I'm just seeing it clearly for the first time. I stood up, finishing my drink. The divorce is finalized in 60 days. Please be moved out by the end of the week. Jason threw his arm around her shoulder, smug. Don't worry, babe. We'll be in our new place soon anyway. I dropped a 20 on the table. Good luck with that. Pretty sure Jason's credit application for your dream apartment got denied yesterday. Rachel's head snapped to Jason. What? I shrugged. I have friends in banking. Your boy's got a credit score that starts with a 5. They also said someone applied using your income to cosign. Sound familiar? Her eyes went wide. Jason started muttering excuses. I walked away, leaving them frozen in that booth, their fantasy unraveling in real time. 2 days later, I came home from the office to find Rachel in the kitchen, disheveled and teary-eyed, stuffing clothes into duffel bags. You were right, she said the second she saw me, about Jason. He lied about everything, his job, his savings, even his age. I leaned against the doorframe. And you're telling me this because... She stepped closer, voice trembling. Because I made a terrible mistake. Ethan, maybe we could... I raised a hand. There is no we anymore. She blinked hard, swallowing emotion. I have nowhere to go. Jason's gone. My sister won't take me in. For a flicker of a second, I felt something close to pity, but it passed. You can stay in the guest room until Friday. After that, you're on your own. That night, a storm rolled in. Heavy rain, wind snapping tree limbs, thunder that rattled the windows. Around midnight, the power went out. I grabbed a flashlight and headed to check the breaker box in the garage. That's when I heard it. Glass breaking upstairs. I ran up the stairs, every muscle tensed. My office window was shattered, rain pouring in. And there, halfway through the window frame, was Jason. Soaked, drunk, wild-eyed. Where is she? He slurred, stumbling inside. I stood firm. Get out of my house. Not without Rachel. She took my car keys. He lunged. 20 years of hauling lumber and swinging hammers had given me more strength than he ever imagined. I sidestepped, grabbed his arm mid-swing, and slammed him against the wall. Last warning, I growled. He struggled, then suddenly pulled a knife from his jacket pocket. Rachel screamed from the hallway. Jason slashed, wild, untrained. I caught his wrist, twisted hard, heard the blade drop to the hardwood. One solid punch to the jaw, and he collapsed, out cold. Call the cops, I told Rachel, pinning him to the floor with my knee. When the police arrived, they found the knife, the broken window, the mess. Jason woke up handcuffed, hauled out for breaking and entering, assault with a deadly weapon, and attempted burglary. Rachel stood on the porch, shaking, wrapped in a blanket. You saved my life, she whispered. I looked at her, flat and cold. I defended my home. She reached for my hand. Ethan, after what you just did, don't you... I stepped back. This doesn't change anything. You and we're done. Her eyes filled with tears. How can you be so cold? I'm not cold. I'm clear. The storm outside was over. The real damage had already been done. Months ago. And now, all I could think about was how peaceful the silence felt for the first time in forever. The police report made the local news. Apparently, a drunken ex-boyfriend breaking in with a knife was spicy enough for a front-page story in a town like Stonebrook. I didn't care much for gossip, but the phone calls started rolling in anyway. Ethan Walker, the guy who took down an intruder with his bare hands? Marcus joked when I walked into the office Monday morning. You're practically a local legend. I brushed it off. Just did what anyone would have done. Marcus raised an eyebrow. No, they wouldn't. Most guys would have ended up in the ER. Speaking of which, he added, how's your hand? I flexed my right hand, still a bit swollen from where it connected with Jason's jaw. Functional. After the morning meetings, I headed back to the house. A security company was finishing up the new system. Cameras on every entry point, reinforced locks, motion sensors. Overkill? Maybe, but I wasn't taking chances anymore. Rachel pulled into the driveway as the technician packed up. She stepped out of her car looking like a shadow of her former self. No designer bag, no $1,000 heels. Just jeans, sneakers, and a quiet, uncertain energy. "You're really going all out," she said, watching the guy install the final keypad by the front door. Recent events made it necessary. Inside, she lingered by the kitchen island, fiddling with her purse strap. "About what happened with Jason? It's handled. He could have killed you, but he didn't. I tested the keypad. Everything responded perfectly. Clean, secure. Your things packed?" She nodded, eyes low. "Found a place downtown, month-to-month lease, just until I figure things out." "Smart." She stepped closer. "You saved me from him. After everything I did to you? Why?" I looked at her, really looked. Under all the mistakes and selfish choices, there was still the woman I once loved. But love, that was gone now. What remained was something colder, cleaner. "I didn't do it for you," I said. "I did it because that's who I am. Jason came into my home with a knife. That left me one option." She swallowed. "The cops said if you hadn't stepped in." "Rachel," I cut her off. "We're done. We were done the moment you decided this marriage wasn't worth fighting for. Jason showing up with a weapon doesn't rewrite history." She wiped at her eyes. "I made the biggest mistake of my life, didn't I?" I didn't answer that. Just said, "I won't be here tomorrow. Leave your keys on the counter by noon." She turned to go. "Oh, and Rachel," I added, "change your phone number. Block Jason on everything. Men like that don't disappear." She paused at the door. "You still care?" "I care about doing the right thing. Don't confuse that with wanting you back." She left. The door clicked shut behind her. I stood in the hallway of the house we used to call home. For the first time in what felt like a lifetime, the silence didn't feel accusing. It felt earned. 3 months after Rachel moved out, Walker & Co. landed the biggest project in its history, designing and building a new community center downtown. Mayor Calhoun made a whole show of the groundbreaking, ribbon cutting, news cameras, champagne. I was holding the ceremonial shovel when I caught sight of a familiar face at the edge of the crowd. Rachel. She was standing near the back, wearing a plain gray pantsuit that didn't fit her right. Her hair was back to its natural color, no jewelry, no designer coat. We locked eyes for a moment. She looked away first. That evening, I was reviewing blueprints in my office when Marcus knocked. "You've got a visitor." To my surprise, it wasn't a client or the mayor again. It was Claire Benson, the lead architect I'd hired for the community center. And coincidentally, the first woman since Rachel who made my heart pause mid-beat. "I didn't expect to see you tonight," she smiled, setting a folder on my desk. "But I figured you might want to see these concept revisions sooner than later." We spent an hour reviewing sketches, ideas, changes. What started as work drifted naturally into something more personal. When she asked if I wanted to grab dinner, I said yes without hesitation. We ended up at Tavern 46, tucked in a quiet corner booth, laughing over wine and grilled salmon. Claire had a dry, clever sense of humor, and a way of listening that didn't feel like interrogation. "So," she said, twirling pasta on her fork, "word around town is you're Stonebrook's most eligible bachelor. Should I be intimidated?" I chuckled. "Hardly. Just a guy figuring things out." "I heard about what happened," she said gently. "It's a small town. For what it's worth, you handled it with class." "Class wasn't my first instinct," I admitted. "But I realized something. If I let anger drive, I'd never get where I actually want to go." "And where's that?" she asked. I thought for a moment, then smiled. "Just forward. When we stepped outside after dinner, the night air was crisp, the streets quiet. That's when I saw her, Rachel, emerging from a convenience store across the street. She froze. Our eyes met. Then she nodded, polite, almost accepting. She walked away. Claire glanced at me. Ex-wife? Yeah. Want to talk about it? I watched Rachel disappear into the shadows of the side street, and for the first time, I didn't want to chase the past. Actually, I said, turning back to Claire with a small smile, I'd rather hear more about your rooftop garden idea. We kept walking, side by side, into something new. 8 months after the divorce was finalized, I was standing on the rooftop of the nearly completed Stonebrook Community Center, surveying the skyline. The project had become more than just another job. It was a symbol, a fresh start, something solid I had built from the ground up after everything came crashing down. Below, workers were putting finishing touches on the landscaping. Inside, volunteers prepped for the grand opening tomorrow. It felt surreal. Quite a view, Claire said, stepping beside me. Her firm had transformed my crew's blueprint into something stunning. Sleek glass, sustainable wood, open-air terraces, beauty with purpose. Worth every late night, I said, wrapping an arm around her shoulder. The past 6 months with Claire had been effortless. No games, no keeping score, just 2 people walking in the same direction. She looked up at me. So, how does it feel? Completing something like this exactly a year after your life went sideways. I took a deep breath. Honestly, feels like perfect timing. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Marcus. Hired Jason full-time. Turns out the guy can actually work a hammer. Who knew? I showed the message to Claire. She raised an eyebrow. Seriously? Yeah. Everyone deserves one chance to stop being who they were, I said. Even him. She gave me a long look. You're a good man, Ethan Walker. Not many would have offered that hand. I wasn't doing it for him, I replied. I was doing it for me. Carrying bitterness was starting to feel like hauling concrete up a hill. Later, the mayor came up to the rooftop with a crew of reporters for a photo op. There he is, the man of the hour, he called, clapping me on the back. Ethan, ready to be on the front page again? As long as I'm not wrestling any more knife-wielding maniacs, I joked. We posed for photos, shook hands, and walked the press through every inch of the building. As we were finishing, I noticed a familiar figure standing across the street. Rachel. She stood beside her car, watching. This time, she didn't look angry or desperate, just tired, but more grounded somehow. I excused myself and walked over. This place is amazing, she said quietly. Everyone's talking about it. Thanks, I said, neutral. How've you been? She hesitated. Better. Got promoted to assistant manager at the store. Just signed a proper lease on an apartment. Not a month-to-month anymore. Glad to hear that. Silence stretched between us. It wasn't awkward, just inevitable. I saw Jason last week, she added. He was buying tools. Said he was working for your company now. Technically for Marcus, but yeah, he's showing up, trying. She shook her head. A year ago, I thought I had everything figured out. Thought I deserved more than this. She glanced toward the community center. You lost everything and built something bigger. I didn't say anything. She offered a small, sad smile. Guess that says something about both of us. Across the street, Claire waved me over for one final photo. I nodded back. I should go. Rachel nodded. Ethan, I'm glad you found someone who deserves you. As I walked back, I felt the last weight slide off my shoulders. No more what-ifs, no more wondering what could have been. Just a man who had walked through fire and come out standing taller on the other side. 1 year to the day Rachel had asked for a divorce, I stood at the community center's rooftop once more, this time as the keynote speaker. Mayor Calhoun handed me the mic in front of dozens of townspeople, families, and press. Thank you, I began, looking out at them, and at Claire standing near the front. A year ago, I thought I was losing everything, but sometimes life tears things down to make room for something better. We don't always choose the storm, but we do choose how we rebuild. They applauded, and I knew this was the true end of the story. Not the divorce, not Jason's knife, not even the settlement. The end was this moment, and whatever came next was entirely mine to build.